The only thing we really know about the East area is that he's a pro. He's been at this for 4 years now, and still nobody even knows what he looks like.
But the all-important thing to remember is that if you are going to protect yourself and if you are going to defend yourself, you must injure your attacker.
So I'm sleeping with my husband's hunting knife under the pillow and a big flashlight on.
The serial predator in this video was not like most others. He knew how to attack and avoid getting caught. He played games with police, called the women who survived, and kept tormenting them psychologically. His crime spree lasted so long that investigators first thought they were dealing with 3 different serial offenders. He acted so carefully and professionally that if not for one unexpected detail, he probably would have remained unknown forever. What exposed him shocked both police and the FBI. And the strangest part is that it was the one thing he never could have predicted. Before I continue, please leave a like and make sure you are subscribed to my channel. Anyone who watches true crime already knows that pop culture loves to turn serial killers into masterminds whose every move is perfectly calculated. But in real life, that usually is not true. Most of them are just miserable, broken losers. This one, though, was different. I am not going to reveal this killer's identity until the very end, so this is definitely a story worth watching all the way through. The first known attack connected to our villain happened on June 18, 1976 in Rancho Cordova, a suburb of Sacramento. That day, an unknown man broke into a private home, attacked a woman inside, tied her up, and sexted her. Exactly 1 month later, he entered another house, then another one a month after that. After that, the time between attacks dropped to just 1 week. Investigators believed he stalked his victims in advance, sometimes for days, sometimes for weeks. He watched when the lights went out, which told him the people inside had gone to sleep. He studied their routines, learned when they were at work or school, and knew when the house was empty. He also tracked the neighbors' schedules and even watched police patrol patterns in the area. This predator was patient and methodical. He collected information to plan every attack as carefully as possible. He wore some kind of hood or mask and was dressed in shorts and a t-shirt. Investigators believed he stayed inside the house for about 45 minutes. No one knows exactly how he got in. The victim was tied up. But investigators do know that before attacking, he sometimes entered victims' empty homes ahead of time, left ropes there to use later, and opened windows so he could get in faster. That reduced the chance of being seen. He usually approached the houses on foot and stayed off open streets, moving through backyards, alleys, parks, and riverbeds, like in that photo. Part of the route he covered on foot, part by bike, and part by car. Right before an attack, he put on a full face mask and gloves so he would not leave fingerprints. He spoke with a fake accent, something like German or Chinese, to throw detectives off. He also kept changing his hairstyle, which made witness descriptions less useful. He committed attacks in different jurisdictions too, which made it harder for police to connect them and realize one man was behind everything.
A teenage girl was raped today in her home in Contra Costa County, and though officials are not saying it was the work of the East area, they do say the crime was committed in his style.
That was only a small part of the preparation that kept him untouchable for so long. 9 months after the first attack, Sacramento police got a call from an unknown man who identified himself as the East area and mocked them. I found the recording of that call. Let's listen. bluffing. That same day, March 18th, 1977, he carried out his 15th attack. Over the next 2 years, he committed 38 attacks in the Sacramento and Stockton areas. His victims were between 13 and 42 years old. Police worked double shifts and even gave up overtime pay so the money could go toward extra patrol cars and floodlights in Cordova neighborhoods. Homeowners trimmed bushes and trees to improve visibility. In just 3 months, more than 3,000 guns were sold. Volunteer patrols watched the streets too, but the predator still stayed ahead. At first, he attacked only single women living alone in private homes. Later, he switched to couples. Profilers linked that change to newspaper coverage suggesting he only targeted women because they were weaker and that he would not dare attack if a man were present. Modus operandi just means the usual method a criminal uses. For example, if a burglar always climbs in through a window, that would be his modus operandi. When he attacked couples, he tied up the man or forced the woman to do it, and then placed dishes on the man's back while he was on all fours. It was a crude alarm system. He warned them that if the man moved, if a plate fell, or if he heard the dishes rattle, he would kill everyone in the house. Investigators connected that dish trick to the Vietnam War, but the lead went nowhere. After that, he tied up the woman and assaulted her in front of the husband, sometimes for hours. He took breaks to eat, grabbed food from the fridge, drank beer, walked around the house, and searched through closets and personal belongings, while both victims were still restrained. Sometimes he went completely silent, so they would think he had left, then suddenly returned and started tormenting them again. Even when he was done, he kept moving around the house and then disappearing into long stretches of silence, leaving victims unsure whether he had really gone or was still inside. He thought through almost everything. During the attacks, he clicked scissors in his hands, threatened to cut off their toes, and stabbed the bed beside them. He often used their names and mentioned personal details, like the high school they attended, to make them think they knew him. That terrified them even more and also confused the investigation. Police believed he was holding back an even stronger urge to cause more pain or eventually take a life. And if that is not horrible enough, it got worse. This sick piece of trash called his victims at home after the attacks, not just right away, but sometimes years later. He taunted them, reminded them of what he had done, and usually threatened to kill them.
Hello? Hello?
People say a killer always returns to the scene of the crime. Some mean that literally. I think it can also mean something else. Serial killers replay their crimes in their minds over and over, and in that way, they keep returning to that day. But this monster took it even further. By calling the people he had left alive, he got to relive that sense of control, not just in his mind, but in real life too. And to show you how long it lasted, those calls continued until 2001, which was 25 years after the first known attack. In Rancho Cordova, especially near Paseo Drive, people had already been rattled by a string of strange break-ins. someone had been sneaking into homes and stealing small, almost random things. Sometimes it was women's underwear, sometimes a cheap piece of jewelry, sometimes just a little cash. He might take $20 from a dresser and leave gold jewelry sitting right beside it. Sometimes he took nothing valuable at all. Doors and windows were left open. At first it just seemed weird, but then 5 assaults happened in that same area, along with the attacks I mentioned earlier. On the night of February 2nd, 1978, a married couple, Brian and Katie Maggiore, were out walking their dog on that street. During the walk, they most likely crossed paths with an unknown man moving through the dark. They knew about the serial killer. Everybody in that town knew about him. So the man decided not to leave witnesses and shot them both. I found a photo of the shoe print he left after the murders. That stain in the picture is Katie's blood. At first, detectives did not connect this case to our serial predator. But then they found a rope tied in a very specific way near the window of a nearby house, just like in many of his earlier attacks. This is a real photo, and the source is BR. Some Reddit users think Brian, who had once been a military policeman, realized what was going on and tried to confront the man, which led to the shooting. I personally lean more toward the idea that the unknown man killed them simply to avoid witness statements and protect himself from being exposed. Brian was hit by 2 bullets. One struck his chest, and then the shooter finished him with another shot to the back of the head. Katie was killed by 1 gunshot to the head. This time there was also a witness, a man who saw the shooting and gave police a description of the killer. But even that did not help. As you can see, the composite sketches were not exactly useful. That double murder became a turning point because until then he had left his victims alive. In later attacks, he told victims he was definitely going to start killing. He even told them to pass that message on to police because he wanted to read about it in the newspapers. Then, in the summer of 1978, the series suddenly stopped. Detectives hoped he had died, or at least ended up in prison for some unrelated crime. But they kept searching even though they had almost nothing to go on. All they really knew was that he was white, around 5'10" or 5'11", had a small penis, and may have served in Vietnam. That was basically it. Investigators documented everything, hoping to find any thread that could connect the evidence and lead them to the and killer. This is the evidence room holding material from all the crimes tied to him. Still, not one piece of evidence brought them any closer. He was unbelievably careful. Everyone was scared. People were sleeping with guns. People were buying dogs. They had every right to be worried. This guy was terrorizing the community. He was doing horrible things. Unfortunately, that piece of trash did not die, and he came back. The attacks started moving farther from Rancho Cordova, stretching south to San Jose, then suddenly returning to Rancho Cordova, and then going back out toward Walnut Creek. A year later, in the summer of 1979, there was another pause. This time, investigators came up with a theory that the attacks matched the academic calendar, meaning our villain might be a college student or even a high school student. As you can guess, that theory went nowhere too. So the police waited for October. Cynical as it sounds, sometimes the only way to catch a serial predator is for him to keep going until he finally slips up. And spoiler, this guy would never make a truly fatal mistake. Yes, he would eventually be caught, but in a way nobody expected, not him and not the police. We'll get to that later. The police never got the next attack they were waiting for. Instead, a new series began in Southern California around Santa Barbara, and at that time no one connected it to our monster. That second predator became known as the Night Stalker. The problem is Richard Ramirez later got the same nickname, so to avoid confusion, this killer was given the label Original Night Stalker. I already have a video on Richard Ramirez on my channel, and he was a complete maniac. This was the stage when the original Night Stalker started killing. The attacks continued until 1981, lasting about 1 year and 9 months. Then he disappeared, and the next known attack did not happen until May 4th, 1986. Only one couple survived, the victims from the very first attack. They managed to break free, alert the neighbors, and make the killer run. Everyone else was either shot or beaten to death with blunt objects. At first, this series was investigated separately because nobody realized it was connected to our earlier predator. Only later did detectives understand that these supposedly different serial offenders were actually one man responsible for one long chain of crimes. I already mentioned that he operated in different jurisdictions. Back then, profiling serial offenders was still limited, so police believed they were dealing with 3 different monsters. In the San Joaquin Valley, he was called the Visalia Ransacker. In Sacramento, the East Area, and in Santa Barbara, the Original Night Stalker. Today, because all those crimes have been linked, people usually use the name Golden State to avoid confusion. From here on, I'll call him GSK. And now let's go back to the first Santa Barbara victims, the only ones who survived. That attack happened on October 1st, 1979. It was hot, so the couple left the windows open and went to sleep. In the middle of the night, they woke up to a bright flashlight in their faces. A man in a black ski mask ordered them onto their stomachs and told the woman to tie up her husband. Then he tied her up too. He claimed he was only a burglar, asked where the money was, and started searching through closets and dressers. While doing that, he quietly hummed to himself, "I'm gonna kill him, I'm gonna kill him." While he was distracted, the woman managed to free herself and ran outside screaming for help. Her husband used that moment to escape the bedroom too. When he got to the backyard, he fell and hid behind a tree. By pure chance, an FBI agent in the house next door was still awake reading. Hearing the screams, he grabbed his gun and ran outside. He saw someone already without the mask trying to escape on a bicycle. The agent jumped into his car and chased him, but the suspect threw down the bike and a knife, then vanished between the houses. The bike had been stolen from a nearby yard, and the knife came from the victim's own house. Some of you will probably ask why the FBI agent did not shoot. Local police asked him the same thing. He said that at the time he did not know what had happened inside the house, could not judge how serious the crime was, and believed using his gun might have been unlawful. He also said it was the first attack in that neighborhood, so he had no way of knowing it was the beginning of a murder series. The stalker clearly learned from that, and after that he made sure later victims in Santa Barbara did not survive. In the 1980s, the number of crimes linked to him dropped. Even now, nobody knows whether there were more crimes that were never connected to him, or whether something in his personal life changed and kept him from doing what he loved most. Then, in July 1981, 2 more victims became known. bringing the Southern California total to 10 and 11. After a 5-year break, the last known GSK victim was 18-year-old Janelle Cruz. She was brutally killed on May 4th, 1986, after spending the evening with a friend. At some point, they heard a noise like the garage door opening. Janelle checked, but saw nothing suspicious. Her friend left at 10:45 p.m. The next day, around 5 in the evening, a real estate agent came to the house, which was being prepared for sale, and found a body lying diagonally across the bed. The face was covered with a blanket. When investigators pulled it back, they saw the victim's face and head had been badly crushed. The killer had used a pipe wrench taken from the backyard and carried the weapon away afterward. The crime was so brutal that it was not immediately linked to GSK. At the time, police were convinced Janelle had been another man, a career criminal. But less than a year later, that suspect died while trying to buy guns and drugs in Mexico. Detectives were so sure he was responsible that they largely stopped pursuing GSK. 20 years later, most of the evidence was destroyed because that was standard practice. Once the statute of limitations had run out, the goal was simply to make room for newer case materials. But a few labs kept the GSK evidence, hoping it might still be needed someday. Some of that preserved evidence contained DNA, but only in tiny amounts. And after so many years, the samples were in terrible condition. That was the first problem. The second problem was even worse. DNA alone cannot identify a killer. Investigators need a known suspect's DNA to compare it with. And they had no suspect. They had the killer's DNA, but nothing to match it against. GSK left DNA all over the crime scenes. Because when he was active, DNA identification did not exist yet. Crime labs in California only started using that technology in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Investigators believe that may be exactly why he stopped. He was cautious enough to understand that if he kept going, he would eventually get caught. That may be why there were no more known attacks after 1986. In 2011, investigators created a DNA profile from material found on a blanket at one of the GSK crime scenes. That profile finally linked all the cases together. It connected 13 murders and 51 assaults committed between October 1979 and May 1986 across different California jurisdictions. Crimes once blamed on 3 different men. In reality, all of them were part of one long series committed by one killer. And I want to repeat that because it matters. Investigators had the killer's DNA, but still had no suspect. So once again, the case hit a dead end. That changed when private DNA testing became popular. You know, the kind people take to check ancestry or health risks just for interest. One site is called GED Match. People upload their DNA there to find relatives they never knew they had and build a kind of digital family tree. Detective Paul Holes uploaded the killer's DNA profile there and found distant relatives. Then investigators used archives, documents, old newspapers, and other records to trace those relatives back to one common ancestral couple and build the family line forward. That narrowed the pool to about 1,000 people. Then, using witness descriptions and known details like age, race, birth range between 1940 and 1960, height, shoe size, and other characteristics, detectives cut the list down to just 5 suspects. After that, the case entered a new phase. Police still needed one final thing: DNA from the actual suspect. And on April 18th, 2018, They tracked the car of one of those 5 men, the one they believed was the strongest match. They collected one DNA sample from the car door handle and another, just in case, from a tissue he had thrown away. Then they compared both samples to the DNA from the crime scenes. Bingo. Perfect match. After 44 years, they finally got the monster. Just think about how crazy that is. This careful, intelligent, almost impossibly cautious serial killer, a man who planned everything down to the smallest detail, was exposed because some very distant female relative, someone he probably never even knew existed, took a DNA test for fun and uploaded it to a genealogy database to look for relatives. Back in the 1980s, that was the one thing he never could have prepared for. The Golden State turned out to be former police officer Joseph DeAngelo. At the time I'm recording this, that monster is 80 years old. This is what he looks like now. DeAngelo was born on November 8th, 1945 in New York. His father, Joseph DeAngelo Sr., served as a sergeant in the U.S. Air Force, and his mother, Kathleen, worked as a waitress. They lived a pretty ordinary life, not rich, not broke. Because of his father's military career, the family moved around a lot. Joseph had a brother and 2 younger sisters. By some accounts, his father could be cruel to the children. One of Joseph's sisters, Rebecca, spoke about that after his arrest. He also beat Joseph's mother, Kathleen. There was trauma in Joseph's childhood, too. He witnessed his 7-year-old sister being assaulted. I could not find many details about that case, so I'm only telling you what I was actually able to confirm. From what I found, it happened on some kind of military base. After high school, Joe joined the U.S. Navy, served aboard the USS Canberra, and went through the Vietnam War, where he most likely came back with even more trauma. When he returned from the war, he enrolled at California State University and graduated with honors with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. That degree later helped him get hired as a police officer. Joe met his future wife, Bonnie Caldwell, while he was in college. She was 18 and he was 23. Bonnie described him as an energetic, outgoing Vietnam veteran. In 1971, they broke up. Bonnie later said that after the breakup, he stalked her obsessively and even threatened her with a gun to pressure her into getting back together with him. Obviously, a truly brilliant method. From 1973 to 1979, he worked as a police officer in Exeter and Auburn, California. In the community, people saw him as a good guy and a good cop. If only they had known it was all fake. Respectable officer by day, serial predator by night. He did not begin with the worst crimes right away. First, he was breaking into homes and stealing. Only later did he escalate. While working in law enforcement, he married again, and in that marriage he had 3 daughters. In 1979, he was fired from the police force for shoplifting a hammer and a can of dog repellent. So yes, in some ways he was smart, and in other ways he was a complete idiot. For that, he got 6 months of probation. His police background taught him how to open locks, bypass alarms, and avoid leaving evidence during attacks. After getting fired, he bounced between different jobs, but honestly, there is no real point in listing all of them. In 1989, when his 3rd daughter was born, his wife filed for divorce. But the separation dragged on for years. They got stuck in legal battles, and the divorce was not finalized until 2018, after he was arrested. After the murder stopped, Joe lived quietly in Citrus Heights. Neighbors described him as an angry, irritable grouch who lived there with his daughter and granddaughter. On April 24th, 2018, sheriff's deputies showed up at his house to arrest him. He reacted calmly, almost like none of it surprised him. The only thing he asked was that they turn off the oven. Prosecutors wanted the death penalty. On March 4th, 2020, D'Angelo offered to plead guilty if they took execution off the table. To save his own life, he admitted to 13 murders, along with many burglaries, assaults, and other horrifying crimes. Funny how people like that are always terrified when it is their turn to die. On August 21st, 2020, D'Angelo was sentenced to multiple life terms without parole. He said he was sorry and apologized. Let's hear that.
I've listened to all your statements, each one of them. And I'm really sorry to everyone I've hurt.
At the time I'm making this video, he is still alive. And until his final breath, that creature will rot behind bars in Corcoran State Prison. Right now, he is 80 years old. During his years of hunting, he took 13 lives and attacked 51 women. Just think about that number.
Joseph D'Angelo isn't just the Visalia ransacker. Having sat here today and listened and sat that night of his interview, he is the real-life version of Hannibal Lecter. He is a cruel, intelligent serial killer. He is pure sociopath. He is a master manipulator.
If you found this video interesting, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Thanks for watching. Take care.